Lisa Fee, the Data for Good sector lead at Launch Consulting. This season, we're sticking a little closer to home, but thinking just as big, harnessing the power of data to create a better global community. This is Navigating Abroad. In this episode, I'm talking to Brandon Abell, the Director of Sourcing at E&J Gallo Winery. Join us as we talk about taking the fear out of automation, how failure helps us to become better innovators, and how Brandon inspired me to make bold moves in my own career. Brandon, it's wonderful to see you after many years. How are you doing today?
Doing well. It's good to see you as well.
Great. For somebody that doesn't work in a manufacturing environment, do you mind sharing what it's like to be there and what kind of trends you're seeing happening in that space?
Well, most people just don't understand just how much detailed or how technical things can be, how much is involved. If you think about various, just even how ice is made or something like that, they may not think about all the physics and the science and the technology that's involved in order to do that. So it's complicated. The simple things become very complicated things, and I think some people just don't really appreciate that.
That was definitely an eye-opener to me when I got more involved in the beverage industry in Northern California when we met, was just the amount of pressure and temperature sensitivity and the amount of tight controls that you have to have in the environment in order to make a really repeatable and high-quality product. So can you share with us what your job was like 10 years back versus today and how things are evolving with technology?
The world we live in is just more complicated that way. Even suppliers and what they bring you, they have their own supply chain challenges. So, and then as far as technology goes, a lot of people, there's these new technologies, new capabilities, and sometimes those are not fully understood.
Ain't that the truth? I remember when I was working in that space, there was a lot around predictive maintenance or being able to kind of anticipate real-time signals when something needed to be adjusted or modified. I'm assuming working in supply chain that has continued to extend because of the pandemic and all the disruptions we've seen. How are you guys reacting in a world that's so unpredictable these days?
It's a challenge for sure. I think that again with technology, things are tailored to a certain fit or certain firmwares and all the different technology and how they work together. And so sometimes you're limited by a given supplier or by a given, call it widget, that'll work if it were to fail. So I think the bigger thing is making sure you have options and understanding all the subtle things about a system or a process and the associated technology. You have to understand all of it and then do an evaluation to see what would I do if I couldn't get it, or what would I do if I can't fix it in the time that's required, because based on whatever your business challenges may be.
Yeah, I always found that really interesting in manufacturing. You can have 30-year-old technology mixed with 30-day-old technology, all having to work together in harmony.
They do.
And so you really have to be quite a nimble problem solver when you're the one that's responsible because the line went down. Because you can't just go to a manual because it's a mix of a lot of different things.
It is.
Can you share some of the bigger challenges you've had in terms of coming into that kind of a diverse environment and having to be really open-minded?
I'll say standards is a challenge, especially if you get into a large organization where you have such a variety that you're not going to have a single technician or a single engineer that's tailored to one specific piece of equipment. They're going to be more well-versed across all of them. And so then when you have spare parts and storerooms, you need consistency, but at the same time, it's very expensive to do that at times. I mean, there's even challenges with different OEMs, equipment manufacturers, and how they're able to support what you may customize. So they have their own training challenges as well. Not to mention, like you mentioned, manuals, training. It's a lot more complicated than that.
I always thought it was really interesting in automation because you have such a base of people that are educated in the particular environment they work in, but we have a huge amount of people that are retiring out of those systems. How are you guys becoming more nimble as you're looking at this labor force?
It's a challenge. Just finding people is tough. It's very, very competitive out there. Creating partnerships with different colleges. I would even, being past military, I would promote the military as well.
I always love working with veterans. They always have that mindset of teamwork and making the most of everything, every asset you have, the people and the machines, to get the best out of people.
I think it's something people should be considering just because of how well-versed they need to be. And again, coming from a nuclear Navy, and just on how they do things and how they train and what you need to be aware of. They're so well-versed, technology from whether it be electrical, mechanical, just the science involved in all of it. They're trained in all of it to be well-rounded. And so that really makes a big difference when you're getting into the automation of the technical world.
So somebody that's interested in craft brews and wines and these fun items that people have been producing for thousands of years.
That's right.
Maybe you wouldn't first think of those are very technical fields, but when you get a closer look to it, there's a lot of spaces for people that have that proclivity and are interested in programming, are interested in troubleshooting, love to work with their hands. I sometimes have heard, and I believe that work smarter, not harder campaign in the 1990s might have done us a disservice, because there are so many high quality jobs in the United States and internationally where people can really use those skill sets. And maybe, can you talk a little bit about the different types of places people could study if they were interested in moving into that field?
A lot of schools do a lot of different things in a lot of different ways even, but I still think the best way to develop somebody in the automation world is really, doing it yourself, because most of the schools just don't teach it that way. They'll teach electrical engineering fine. The controls engineering, there's very, very few that really go into those depths to be able to train on those concepts. And so finding a chemical engineer, for example, I personally believe, just because of how grounded they are on just the laws of the world we live in, you can teach the technology. There's certain concepts, obviously, but you need to have both. And so finding somebody that has both sides of the science, of the physics of it all, how things work, action, reaction, finding somebody that knows that as well as the electronics, like just how things work technically.
I agree with you. I've seen some cool innovations around community colleges, around mechatronics programs and more hands-on learning environments. But I've also seen a lot of employers being very open-minded to people that have the aptitude and the interest in learning, to be willing to invest their resources and their time in almost like an apprenticeship model of helping people skill up, right?
Yeah, so I guess I'm just saying, don't be afraid of it.
Yes.
Bringing in somebody that's got the background coming from like a Cal Poly or something like that, sure. That's great, but at the same time, sometimes it's so competitive. Sometimes it's hard to get those good folks out of there. But don't be afraid to develop somebody that's also hardworking, got good foundations, and willing to learn that technology. And I think some people may be a little bit reluctant to do that.
Yeah, so when you were in the military working on nuclear programs, did you ever envision being in the wine industry the way that your career has had?
No, not at all.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of your proudest accomplishments of working for so long at one place?
I can't go into too much detail, of course, but no, there's been some large systems and having to develop new concepts, challenge what was done in the past. I think those types of things have really they become something you can be very proud of, for sure. And those things that I've done, they're still there, and they've been there for decades in some cases. So that's something that I can be proud of, for sure.
Yeah, you're building that legacy of working at one of the most technically advanced wineries in the world and being able to create new capabilities over time and innovate, right?
Yeah, it's far from stomping grapes, that's for sure.
I don't know. I enjoy it the old way and the new way. There's usually not a bottle of wine I dislike. But so Brandon, we all have days where we're tired, we're recharging, maybe don't want to have the right mindset to bring our best selves to work. What are your whys on the days where you have to talk yourself into showing up?
Well, I think from a doing component, it's something I'm going to do myself. I pride myself in trying to do things that people say just can't be done. Whether it be directly with technology or if I'm in some sort of a relationship or negotiation or some sort of new capability, the job satisfaction associated with coming through and delivering on something that nobody thought could be done, that feels really good. And so those don't come around obviously very long. There's a lot of work that's involved in delivering, but at the same time, it's amazing when you get it. As relates to leadership and things, it's developing the team. Giving the team what they need, getting out of the way, helping them learn from my mistakes, all right, and then helping encourage them in ways that maybe I was hoping for in the beginning too. Those things, and seeing them succeed and do things and see them feel the same joy that I felt over the years, that's certainly worth getting up for.
Love that. So for people that are entering the automation field or the procurement field in manufacturing, what advice would you give to those new recruits?
Be bold. Sometimes I think somebody coming in new in an industry, they're a little cautious, they're trying to feel their own way, and just be bold. It's okay to fail. I think back over my many years and just how apprehensive you can be when you're just worried about failure.
Absolutely.
Obviously you need to be calculating as far as what's acceptable risk and what's not, There is a point of that you don't go too far, but at the same time, it's okay to fail. I mean, those are lessons, and I try to do that to make sure my kids know that too. And again, when I was younger, I didn't stress that point enough. It's okay to fail. I mean, it really is. Those are good lessons for the future.
I believe it's the entry tax for any innovation. You have to be comfortable with failure, because that's how we grow and learn as humans. If you're always on the cautious side, you'll never know what your limits are.
That's true. And just to add to that, when you're being bold, I mean, you're going to do it your own way. You're going to find your own way of doing things. And especially in the automation world, there's 1,000 different ways to skin a cat. And I just think it's important that people kind of find their own way, their own style, and how they deliver to a given goal. And if you try to do it the way you're told, if you're too prescriptive, you'll actually make it worse. People will they'll try to be loyal, they'll try to follow suit, and they'll try to do it that way because they think it's the right way, whatever. But it's not. There's other ways to do things, and finding your own way is important. And so being bold helps that.
Well, you certainly encouraged me to be bold. You were the first person in my career that ever asked if I'd considered starting my own business.
It was my
pleasure. Do you remember that?
It's a vague memory, but I'm glad it worked out.
That was about 15 years ago, and I never envisioned an entrepreneurial future for myself. So I want to say thank you for encouraging me to be bold. And today I have a list of things that I feel are my legacy that I've left because I've done it in my own way. And I know that this interview is going to encourage many more people to be bold like you have been and do it in your own way. For folks that want to follow you and learn more about you, where can they find you?
Best way to get a hold of me is just to go on LinkedIn and send me a message. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, and we'll see if we can't connect that way.
Thank you so much for your time today, Brandon. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Good talking with you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise.